This is the Bringing Business to Retail podcast, and today's guest, we've got Jennifer Berson from Generation PR.
Welcome to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast on SelenaKnight.com. Stay ahead of the competition by opening your doors to business experts so you can learn, grow, and be inspired. Passionate about bringing business strategies to independent retailers, please welcome your host, Selena Knight.
Hey there, and welcome to today's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. Thank you so much for taking a little bit out of your time today to learn, grow, and be inspired. I'm your host, Selena Knight, the retail strategist, and today we are going to be talking all about how to use PR to get your products seen and sold. Today's guest, Jennifer Berson, is the president and founder of Generation PR, and they specialize in public relations and social media for beauty, baby, and lifestyle brands, which I know that a lot of you have. They're probably the most popular categories of products of retailers that I work with. Now, Jen hasn't always been a PR agent. Before she moved into this life, she was actually a litigation lawyer. Big difference, right? We actually talk a lot about how she made that change from one to the other and how she's actually taken some of those corporate strategies and used what she knows to help retailers build their brands and get them out to the public. Today, she's going to be sharing a whole bunch of tips on how you can get your product into the hands of celebrities, how you can get it out there, how you can get it to be seen, but also how you can make sales from PR. Now, Jen has just created a course called Press Success. It's a PR masterclass for entrepreneurs that step by step, she helps them through the framework for executing a PR strategy that converts into massive media placements for business. And I'm going to pop the link for that into the show notes. Now, on top of that, Jen has been super generous to give us a PR Essentials cheat sheet, which you can download for free. So if you would like that, head on over to the show notes. If you're listening on a mobile device, just click the big button that takes you over to Jen's site to download her PR Essentials cheat sheet. And if you're listening to this on the go, I'll pop a link to that PR cheat sheet over at SelenaKnight.com/Jen, Jen, and you can grab it when you get back in front of a computer. Now, when it comes to sales, you need to have a promotion, right? You need to have a plan, you need to have a strategy in order to maximize the return on investment, to maximize how much money ends up in your bank account. Now, if the whole PR strategy and promotional strategy is a little bit overwhelming for you, well, let me tell you that the promotional strategy I can help with. I am just about to release, next week we'll be releasing the ultimate guide to creating a holiday promotion. Now, in here, you are going to find the promotion creator, you're going to find a marketing budget calculator, you're going to have swipe copy for the emails that you need to send out, you're going to have a daily checklist so that you don't get overwhelmed, plus over 50 social media templates. I've actually packed over $2,000 worth of value into this package, and when it goes live, we're going to be selling it for $197. But you can get in early. If you head over to SelenaKnight.com/holidays, then you can grab this pack, pre-order it for just $97. And you will be able to put together the best holiday promotion that you have ever staged. And you're not going to be overwhelmed. You're going to make more sales because you're going to have a plan in place to make money. So if that sounds like something you need, head on over to SelenaKnight.com/holidays and you can pre-order that pack for just $97. Okay, so let's see what Jen has to say in terms of PR and how you can wrap that up into a whole promotional strategy. Hey there, and welcome to this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. If you have wanted to get your business into the media, and if you want to know how to use the media to drive customers to your store, well, today's guest, Jen Berson from Generation PR, is here to tell you exactly how to do it. Welcome to the show, Jen.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Oh, I love your positive, uplifting voice. It's the perfect way to start a podcast. Welcome. Tell us about how you ended up in PR, because I was reading your story about you were originally a lawyer. So how did you end up here in PR?
I know it's kind of a non-linear, illogical path, right? um, so I have had this business for about 13 years now. Before that, I was a civil litigation attorney for 4 years in Los Angeles. And I look back on it and I feel like law just felt like a job and not a career. And I didn't realize how little I enjoyed it until I was out of it. Like looking back, I just feel like it was not the right fit for me and there was something pulling me in another direction. But I started working for a brand on the side while I was still practicing law. And it was a fragrance company and I just loved the product so much. I actually discovered it in London when I was on my bar trip. So I took the bar exam in 2001, and then everybody kind of heads for the hills and they go away for a month or so just to kind of get the travel out of their system before they jump into the real world, right?
Before they have to anchor down and start doing all those
Exactly.
ridiculous hours.
Before you have to be a grown-up, you kind of just go and travel. But I found this beautiful fragrance and I loved it. And every time I wore it, I got a million compliments on it. And my mom loved it. And for Mother's Day, I thought, I want to find this for her. I want to get it. So I tracked it down. And this was before the internet. You could really find everything with a quick Google search. I mean, I had to do some deep dive research. And it turns out this company was based in California, which is where I am. And I just felt like they should have more of a presence here in the States. And I had all these ideas for them. Like, okay, they have a fragrance called I Am Beautiful. And at the time, Christina Aguilera had a song called Beautiful. And I thought, she should have this perfume. So I called the woman, actually wrote her an email, and I just begged her, if you send me a box of your products, I will find ways to get it into magazines and get it to celebrities and try to get you in retail stores. I mean, crazy person on the internet reaching out saying, give me a big box of free stuff. I couldn't believe she actually did it, but she did. And I got really good press for this company and I wasn't even getting paid. And actually I did get the product to Christina Aguilera and then I told a magazine about it. And then they ran a feature and the person who owned the company told me that this was the biggest push of sales that they had ever had. And it made me feel really productive, versus litigation, which was so long and drawn out and all about spending money. This was actually, basically litigation is trying to get a company to lose money and exhaust their resources so they kind of give up before you actually have to go to court. But this was something that made money for this business and had a positive impact. And from that first press placement, I was hooked. And I just felt like if I could do this for other businesses and actually get paid and, figure out what the resources are available to somebody that's doing this service for a company. And I started to research a bit and realized that this was where I wanted to be. And I quit my job and just moved into PR.
What did your family say when you went from lawyer to PR? Probably they didn't even know what PR was, right? We're talking 13 years ago. It wasn't. I mean, it's always been around, but it's much more prominent these days. So what did your family say?
Oh my God, it's so funny that you asked that because it was not a popular decision. And actually, I was dating my husband at the time. So he's my boyfriend and he was in business school and he looked at me and said, if you want to do this, you will be amazing at it. And I know you'll be successful and this is a great fit for you and you should do it. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And then I went to tell my parents and I brought him with me kind of for moral support. And, at the time I wasn't married and I had a mortgage payment and I had, a nice salary, like a good 6-figure salary at, 27 years old. That's just what lawyers make, so it was not replacing my salary, not right away. And my dad just started screaming at me. I mean, no filter whatsoever, just yelling and cursing. I mean, literally cursing at me. And my husband, we get in the car to leave and he's like, your dad is, he used an expletive. He was like, he is not supporting you, and how can you not support your daughter? And I realized my dad is just scared. And also I went to law school. It was very expensive. It was a huge financial commitment. And it's not that I just walked away from all of that. I knew I could always go back and that I would use my education in this business. But I think for my dad, it was scary because I had this mortgage obligation and I didn't even know if I would ever make money doing this. So it was not popular. But now, now they're my biggest fan. I hear my dad on the phone talking to his friends. Oh, Jennifer got a new client, so it's, I think it was just from a place of, fear and concern. And one of the things he said was, don't come to me for money. And I was like, okay, that's not going to happen. Yeah.
I just did a Facebook Live last week, and it was about how to deal with an unsupportive partner. And all those things you just said were the exact same things I brought up. And you are so lucky that you had your boyfriend / now husband with you, because maybe that could have turned out completely differently if you didn't have the moral support and that person by your side saying that you'd be fantastic at it. Because you're exactly what you said about your dad. He did it because he knows that you had spent all that time and that money to get where you are, and they love you. They don't want to see you be a failure. So you can, now that we're a little bit older, it's funny how we can look back at, especially when you've got kids and you can see the other side of the story. But I'm sure when you're at the time, you're like, damn him.
Yeah. Well, to be young and not have the support of your parents, it's major. I think that's the moment that I kind of grew up and became an adult, was when I feel like this is a therapy session, Selena. But you're totally right. I mean, my husband in my entire business has been my biggest cheerleader, and he's always made me feel totally empowered. And I actually just launched this other side of my business, which is the digital content side, where I teach entrepreneurs how to do what we do with my agency so they can do it themselves and avoid, paying a retainer. And I tell them exactly, step by step, this is what you do. But to do this other business was a major time investment and also a financial investment, because I ran Facebook ads against it, and I had a lot of expensive technology to put this all together, and I a graphic designer. I mean, it was a major investment, and my husband just said, absolutely, like, this is a startup and I'm investing in you 100%. Do what you have to do to make this happen. And you're right. If he wasn't supportive, I mean, not only would my business have turned out differently, but I definitely probably wouldn't have ended up married to him. So, he's always been there. And now he's an entrepreneur too. And, we talk about his business all the time, and he will tell me, he's very supportive, and he'll say, you make me feel supported in what I'm doing, and gave me the courage to actually make the leap and to see that there is a path to success on your own.
Oh, and that was my number one tip, was you have to include your partner or your family or friends, whoever that person is close to you, because it all comes back to they want to support you and they want you to succeed. So just bringing them in, that I love that you talk to him about it, because I have that same, my husband works for a company, but he's the only one in the country of that company. So he's kind of self-employed really. And we do this every day. Every day when we take the dog for a walk, we just debrief. And I'll admit, it's usually me more than him. But as we walk the dog, I just sit there and blah, 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 blah. And sometimes he throws things back at me. Sometimes my daughter might throw out some random suggestion, and it just sparks the answer. Like, it doesn't have to be the answer, but it gets your brain firing, just speaking out loud. And so that you are now there to support him. That is so wonderful.
Yeah, I feel really lucky. I mean, I feel really, really lucky. And now he's got more flexibility, and, he's in the weeds and he's working really hard. But I mean, you know how it is when you work for yourself, it's all benefiting you. But now he has that flexibility. Like yesterday, he came home to play a board game with the kids and to go for a run. And, it meant that he had to work after dinner, but now he has that flexibility. And I've had that for the last, 13 years, and always since I've had children. And it's just so empowering. I mean, I'm class mom for my son, and I just have that ability to kind of make my own schedule and, choose who I want to work with. I wouldn't change it for anything. And now that I get to see him go through the steps and, have his ups and downs, it's just awesome to share in that with him. So we're very So sometimes I have to say, okay, I'm taking off my business consultant hat to you, and now I'm putting on my wife hat. Like, let's go have a date night and separate it out,
I do the opposite. Because he works for a technology company, I keep saying to him, you need to be running Facebook ads. And he says to me, he says things like, my people aren't on Facebook. I'm like, yeah, they are. The CEO of that company, I can guarantee you, is on Facebook. Yes, you can run marketing on Twitter. Yes, you can run marketing on LinkedIn. But I think you need a follow-up campaign on Facebook.
Have you installed your tracking pixel?
Well, this is just a side, was because it's an Israeli American company, they don't have a specific landing page for Australia. And they don't even have a Facebook pixel on their site. And so I said to him, can you please just go and ask them to make a landing page for Australia and then get them to put the Facebook pixel on?
Yeah.
And I'm sure sometimes he looks at me and kind of goes, I know you deal with small business and this is really important. This is in his head, I reckon. This is what I hear him saying in his head. You deal with small business and I know Facebook ads is important to you. We are enterprise. We don't need Facebook ads. And I feel like saying to him, yes, you do.
Yes, you do. Yeah, everyone could benefit from Facebook ads.
Oh, just even a retargeting campaign. Like, hello.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. Well, one day.
And they don't even have like opt-ins or downloads. But that's a story for another podcast.
Yeah.
All right. So
you're speaking my language, by the way. You're totally speaking my language.
The fact that enterprise companies don't get this, and they're tech companies, I just feel like saying, you could take out a leaf out of small businesses book here.
Yeah. Yep. Learn what we know.
Okay. So talking about this company that you managed to get the PR for, if you are a small business, and we've got retailers listening, is there anything that you have to do to get ready for a pitch? Is there anything that you need to sort of prepare, or do you just kind of send out a bunch of emails talking about your stuff? How does it work?
Well, I think the answer to that is no. You definitely don't just send out. But so there are some things you can do to get ready for the media. So to try to position the topics that I'm going to talk about to retailers. So your listeners are mostly brick and mortar retailers. Is that correct?
Brick and mortar and e-commerce, and some market stall holders. Yeah.
Yeah, well, one of the strategies is to focus on the products that you carry, whether they're your own or you're selling third-party products. If there's like a curation aspect to what you're doing, what kind of experience somebody's going to have when they're shopping at your store or going to your site, that in and of itself is a great approach for the media. Online placements are great because they can link back and push over traffic to your site. But in order to have things ready to go, depending on what you're pitching, you want to have, first and foremost, product photography. So anything that's going to run about your store online or your brick and mortar, they're going to probably want to see what the store looks like, or if you're pushing the products that you carry as the reason to visit your store, you want to make sure that you have images of those products, which usually then you can ask to get them from the retailers, or you have them if you have put them up as stock in your store. But if they're your own products, obviously you have shot them in order to run them on your site, in which case you can use those images. But it's really important to have some image to, convey your store, because they're going to ask for it. So it could be, some sort of a lifestyle shot, where, it's more than just an image, but it's some kind of a setup. It could be like a flat lay, which could be your products in, a layout somehow with props that give it some kind of a feeling. It could have a model in it. I'm trying to position it in a way that would apply to all of the types of listeners that you would have. But the other thing that is the most important thing, if you carry products of any kind, any physical product that you can hold in your hand, you want to have high resolution images on a white background. So they're sometimes called siloed shots, but those are able to be dropped into any kind of layout, and it gives the publication a lot of flexibility to run your images, and drop it into a layout. So let's say you want to drive traffic to your site and you're pitching a certain story angle, and you're using the products as a way to convey what that feature should be in the publication. So it could be, getting your house guest ready for the holidays, and you have a store that sells linens and bath and body products. Let's say maybe they're your own, maybe they're not, but you use those images as a way to pitch the story. And if you have a really good image on a basic background, they can run that image. And, even if it's in a layout, they can just drop it in because it'll look like they shot it themselves. It's just a generic, beautiful, crisp picture of a product. And then you would link it back. You would ask them to link it back to your store as a way to have people access and buy those products. Okay. So that's a long way to say it. Sorry.
It's okay. I've got two questions about that. One is, if you have poor photography, is it the difference between getting featured and not?
I think it's the difference between getting sales and not, getting featured and not. I think product photography is a very wise investment. If you have poor photography, you will not get featured on any top sites. Like, I think if you want to be on a certain website, and this goes to researching where you want to be and going for quality instead of quantity, and not overwhelming yourself with like the vast world of opportunities out there, but really being laser focused on where you want to be. So then you go to those sites and you look at how they're featuring stores like yours or story angles like you're pitching, and see what their images look like. And you'll be able to tell, if I don't have a well-lit shot, or there's shadows, or the imagery is low resolution, they're probably not going to put it in, if they have a basic aesthetic quality that they have to match. So there might be some bloggers that'll post it, things that are a little bit more homespun, but I think spending and investing on product photography is one of the most important investments in a business, because you can use those assets everywhere. You can use them on the site. And if your listeners have an actual website where they have multiple products from other brands, they need to seek from those brands the best imagery possible.
Yeah, it's one of the things that a lot of retailers lament. It's that, suppliers don't give them images, so they have to pay to shoot their own images. And as a result, and I don't know why brands do this, because as a result, you don't get the cohesion. You get all these people taking crappy pictures in the back of their storeroom because they need it to post online, but it doesn't represent what the brand is trying to convey. Exactly what you were saying. They have a story they're trying to tell, and if you've got 100 different retailers taking 100 different photos, it doesn't reflect your brand very well.
Yeah, and you're probably going to get better sell-through if you have beautiful images that you can share with your retailers. I mean, my clients all come to us with a gallery of assets that they're using for marketing, they're using for sales. So their whole sales force has them. I mean, maybe your listeners are, possibly smaller, or the brands they carry are maybe more boutique brands, but they're more likely to get picked up in multiple stores because they have these great assets that will help the product sell through. So, and our clients, even the smaller ones, we just had a client with a beauty brand. I've kind of come full circle. It's a fragrance line that I'm working with now, not the same one, but beautiful products. And it's a smaller company, and the products aren't, inexpensive, but the packaging is so gorgeous. The design of the packaging is so gorgeous, and she provides all of her retailers with beautiful high-resolution photography, and it's carried on Anthropology, which is a huge site, here in the States, and they get great sell-through because the images are enticing, and the packaging looks great, and there's that cohesion, like you're saying. So it's a worthwhile investment, and if you're a retailer, go back to the brands and request it or require it in your sales contract. I don't know. It just really helps both parties because it's going to ultimately sell more product, and you could use them for PR purposes.
And we need to use that word instead of photos. We need to use the word that you just used, which was assets. So
yes.
I think that was like a little light bulb going off in my brain, is instead of just talking about photos, let's talk about these assets that you need in order to sell the to sell the brand to consumers. So that is a perfect word that retailers can use to go back to their brands and say, I need some assets to sell your products. Okay, my next question is, you were talking about, you just quickly hinted on, go to the places that you want to be featured and look at how they lay out their products. And do you need to have a strategy when you do this? Like, or do you just is the deal to just sit on? In Australia we have Source Bottle. You've got Harrow, and do you just go on there every single 3 times a day and just reply to anything that could be applicable, or should you actually take the opposite approach and approach the places that you want to be featured?
Well, both, but I will say with Harrow here, and it might be the same with your resource there, it's so competitive. There's so many people on there vying for these opportunities that they're really hard to get, and you have to be the first. You have to be really fast, and you have to only answer exactly what they're asking for. We like to use Harrow as a way to see what editors and writers are vying to know about, what topics are currently hot in the media, so that we can find ways to work our products into those stories outside of the queries that come through them. So, because it's competitive, and if that's your only strategy, you're going to be dead in the water. It's not enough. So you have to be proactive, and a successful media campaign requires focus. So my approach is always to teach in a way that avoids overwhelm, because there is so much opportunity out there. And if you think of everything, you get kind of, this paralysis of like, where do I even begin? It's so daunting. I can't take a step forward. So for me, it starts with that feeling you get when you're listening to something, or you're watching a show, or you're reading a blog, and you're struck with that, I should be here. Usually the places that you're finding your information are going to probably be the most relevant to your business and the kind of target customers that would be interested in your business. So as you're reading those publications, start to make a list and say, you know what, I'm reading this and I really feel like I could contribute here, or they're talking about this type of product and we carry that in my store. I should reach out to them, and start to make a list and pay attention to what they're talking about, what the tone is, if it's really professional, if it's more of a trade publication, or if it's a little bit more whimsical and youthful, and try to match the tone when you reach out to them, and really position your store and your products that you carry. You can't just go to them and say, here I am, aren't we great? You should write about us. But you have to present a story angle and explain how you're adding value and fitting in with their editorial content, and how you're going to benefit their readers.
So can you reach out to them in advance and say, I would love to know what you're planning for spring? Will they get back to you?
Sometimes. I mean, as a PR firm, when we request it, we have enough goodwill and they know the quality of our clients, so they'll usually let us know. Or they reach out and say, for February, we're working on pink and red products that will fit a Valentine's Day spread, so we can pitch those things. There's also a way to kind of predict what they're writing about, because it's cyclical, so the editorial calendar follows the holiday calendar. If you read your favorite magazines, they're always talking about holiday gift guides in December, and Mother's Day gifts, or spring products in May, summer entertaining. If it's fashion centric, they're always talking about denim in August, or spring. September is, fall fashion issues. So the content tends to run really consistently and predictably. So you can pitch proactively, anticipating what they're probably going to be talking about. So even if you ask them, hey, what are you working on? And they don't get back to you, you can still predict, okay, they're probably going to be talking about spring in their April issue, or right around April, May, they're probably going to be talking about Memorial Day travel. So how can I position my store to match those stories? So you can do a little bit of predicting, knowing that, and even if they aren't going to be talking specifically about that, if you position something in as interesting of a way that's relevant and timely, then maybe you'll give them the idea and they'll run with it.
Oh, I was just thinking, one of my clients has a skincare range, because you were talking about skincare earlier, and it's sugar-free. And I was just thinking, we should have pitched her for sugar-free September, because it's a little bit quirky, right? It's a little bit different.
Absolutely.
But how far? I was going to say, how far in advance do you have to how far in advance do they work? 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks?
That was literally my next point I was going to make, because timing matters. And that's such a great question. So depending on the outlet, there's going to be different lead times. So print magazines, we call those long leads because they take a long time to put together. They have to go to print, and they're usually working on the content for long leads. At least this is how it is where we are here in the States. But you want to give 3 to 4 months. Nowadays it's more like 4 months. It used to be 90 days. Now it's more like 120 days. So you give them enough time. So you think in your head, okay, it's September now. This is a weird time of year, because actually for the holiday issues, they start working on them in July, because there's so much content and holiday gift guides, and they start working on them early. So that's kind of an exception. But let's say, September, you're going to start pitching New Year's themed topics, and we're even working as far ahead as February right now.
I was just thinking, people are probably pitching Valentine's Day now.
They are. And we're getting requests from editors. We're working on our February issue. We're working on, hair color products that'll help you maintain your color. I don't know why in February, but that's what they're working on. So we can see how far ahead they're working. But then there's short leads, which are anything that's online. And, usually we say pitch something 3 weeks in advance, but we've gotten them to turn around and place something online the same day. That's the beauty of digital, is that they can quickly post something if it's really exciting and relevant and they want to squeeze it in. If they're working on something and you pitch it, within 3 weeks, they can get it on. And also, if there's any mistakes or you want them to update a link, if you ask nicely, you can't always ask them to change things. They definitely will not change their editorial focus. So don't even ask. But if it's a link or something, or they, write your brand name incorrectly, like some of our clients have, like all of the letters of the name are all caps, and it's hard to get editors to do that. So, you can ask them to change that. But the lead time on what we call short leads, and on short leads, it's also weekly print magazines, which here are celebrity gossip magazines, right? So they come out every week, and they work about 3 weeks in advance. And they always have to have some kind of a celebrity tie-in. So if you have a store or restaurant or something and a celebrity came in, and you had some paparazzi pictures that happened to be taken, or you saw what that celebrity purchased in your store, and you want to make a big deal about the product that they selected, and you don't mind that you might potentially be upsetting one of your best celebrity customers by mentioning.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's a fine line. It's a fine line. But, if you're not taking their picture and you kind of just mention it, I think there's so much value. It's a fine line. You have to be really kind of, if you're a medical spa, and they're coming in for Botox, you're definitely not going to want to jeopardize their privacy, in that setting. But if it's a retail store and they bought a necklace, sure, I think that's okay to share that. Maybe you even ask them, oh, we're such a fan. We would love to be able to tell our customers that this is one of your picks. Would you be okay with that?
I like that. Yeah. I like that asking for permission first, because celebrities are celebrities for a reason, right? They like people to know what's happening in their lives. So like you said, if you're not taking the picture, because obviously there's money in the photo, but if you actually just feature the product and you have a quote from them about what they loved about it or something like that, and you've asked permission, and then you're just driving traffic back to them.
Yeah, there is that feeling of like they're a tastemaker because they're selecting a product and that means that it's cool. The thought is if celebrities have unlimited access to everything, they have tons of money and they choose a product, it must be really great because they could get anything. And if they choose that one, it's the best. But you have to be mindful that a lot of times they have contracts, particularly in the beauty industry. So they might have a contract with L'Oreal or Revlon, and you want to be mindful of that because if you have a cosmetics company or your client with the sugar-free skincare, if they also happen to work with a celebrity that's a fan of their line that has a beauty contract, you definitely don't want to step on any toes because they might be contractually obligated to not align themselves with other brands. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. I have to be honest with you. In my business, we usually approach things the opposite of what you just said. We always, kind of ask for forgiveness and not permission. But I'm also a lawyer, right? So I kind of know what we could get away with where nobody's ever really reached out to me and said, don't do that, take it down. No one says that, but you want to avoid any situation where you're going to get sued, which means using a copyright protected image or making claims, like claiming that they said a certain something, or that they endorse your product. There's ways to say it in a way, or that they're fans of your store. There's ways to say it in a way that's more like, they're fans of the store or they were spotted, which isn't really saying, you're not putting words in their mouth.
I like that.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, there's so much I could talk about here. Oh my God, I'm talking too much.
No, that's good. And I have to admit, I never realized that those, let's call them gossip magazines, came out, they only worked 3 weeks in advance. Like now that I think about it, it's pretty obvious, right? Because they say that they were spotted last week, such and such place. But that turnaround time, in my head, I'm thinking they must be desperate for content because when you're working to that tight a deadline, you need as much to sift through as possible to fill your magazine.
Yeah. And actually, they work on even tighter deadlines. 3 weeks is usually the editorial lead time. If they're working with celebrity images, the issues usually go to print on a Tuesday and they're on newsstands Wednesday, sometimes Thursday. I've seen pictures that have been posted online on Monday and they make it in the issue before it goes to print on Tuesday. So, they have to because the images online are so immediate. And if you see something, it's like, when you're looking on Twitter and you see something go by in your feed and then you see it go by an hour later and you're like, oh, I already knew that. It's old news, So it's the cycle online now is so fast that even 3 days later or a week later feels like an eternity. So the print weeklies are running images so far after most people have already seen them. So they have to be as current as possible, but the lead time that I'm describing usually refers to something more on the editorial. So if they're doing a fashion spread or some gift suggestions or products that are favorites of celebrities, that sort of a thing, they usually have a little bit more runway on those features.
But it does just go to show that you should, like you were saying earlier, be proactive because they need the content. They need you as much as you need them.
Yeah, they do. They do. And it goes back to positioning it to also fit in exactly with what they cover. So they are looking for good content, but it still has to match that editorial focus, which in a weekly gossip magazine has to have a celebrity tie-in. It doesn't need a direct celebrity tie-in. Maybe your product is something that aligns with a look of how a celebrity is dressed, or you give style tips based on somebody's look. They don't automatically endorse it or they're not purchasing a specific product. But if you can position it to have some sort of a celebrity tie-in, that's going to be the way to break into a weekly magazine that are all celebrity focused. And that same focus on editorial alignment goes with every publication you pitch. Business pitch is not going to be the same as a product-centric pitch in a fashion magazine, which won't be the same as how you reach out to an influencer. It's all going to be a little bit of a different approach.
I was just thinking in my head then, I don't read those magazines very often, but I tweaked my back yesterday and I was in the chiropractor, and of course it's full of those kinds of magazines. And one of the things that they generally have in these weekly magazines is a dress that looks similar, like how to get the look that such and such wore. And you could pitch a dress that looked similar to the one that Kim Kardashian wore. It doesn't have to be the same. It just has to be similar.
Inspired by, right? Like inspired by look, or like look for less. Definitely that's a great approach. And it really helps to see what features are regularly included in those magazines so that you can pitch for a specific article that's a regular feature, or see who's writing the type of content that would be a fit for your angle, for your story angle.
Wow, so many ideas. I don't feel like I'm creative enough to be in PR. I'm so linear that I love talking to people like you because it actually makes me think of all these different angles. But say that we go and do the pitch, and you've got the great photography. Is there anything else that you need to include in that pitch? Like, should you have, I don't know, like a little package of information that you send them? How does that work?
Yeah, well, for the initial pitch, you want to be as succinct as possible. So including a ton of stuff right off the bat, like your only goal is to get them interested and to get them to reply to you so you can give more information. So give just enough, so that they can be enticed. And if you can do it quickly, then it's okay, I think, to include pricing and retail credit. Images you want to have as low resolution embedded in, not as an attachment, but actually embedded in the pitch. The editors do not like attachments, but in order to be fully ready to go, when an editor bites, they're going to ask you, where do you want it to, who carries it, or where do you want it to link to? How much is it? So you have to have your pricing really locked down. If you list something and the price is actually incorrect, it's going to get published and you basically have to sell it for that price, or customers are going to be mad. Going less is fine, but having it be higher than in reality than what you publish is never going to be okay. So you want to make sure your pricing is locked down. And then availability. So if, they're going to ask you, this always comes up if you have a product, when did your product or your service launch? Is it already available? When did it launch? Because they want things that are new. And that's not to say that they won't talk about it if it's not new, but when you first have something come out, you want to try to time it in advance of when you're actually launching, because you want them to have some advance notice so that they can work it in within the lead time. So if you have a product that comes out in October and you pitch them in October, they're probably not going to see that in the magazine until January, February, which means that it's already a little old to their readers because it's been out on the market for 3 months. And that's particularly relevant in the beauty industry. That comes up all the time. When did this launch? Oh, well, it launched a week ago. That's too old. You're like, no one's ever seen it. So we sometimes will tell our clients, delay your launch in order to allow us the runway to pitch long leads so you get some traction there and you have the launch coincide with when magazines are talking about it. So that's what you need. And then also your brand messaging. So you want to know really, really quickly off like the back of your hand, what makes your brand unique? What is different about your products, your service? You want to steer clear of the words unique and innovative, all of that kind of marketing jargon. You can show them rather than tell them. So you can explain the features and benefits versus saying our product is unique and innovative. So you want to have that brand messaging really locked down. And my number one tip is just be as concise as possible. Just get straight to the point and also quick. So if you get a bite from an editor, you want to be immediately responsive. They might be working on a deadline. If you don't get back to them right away, they could go to your competitor and get information from them.
Wow. I'd never really thought about that either. So if you are out there actively pitching, be checking those emails like every 20 minutes just in case.
Yeah, yep. I get so excited when I send a pitch and then something comes back. It's like a little gift, it's like, oh, they wrote me back. What do they have to say? And, sometimes they'll say, wow, that's interesting. We're not covering that right now, but what we are working on is this. And maybe you have something different for them. Or they could say, we're really interested in your brand story, or right now we're working on companies that give back. Do you have any clients like that? So it might be like an entree to other opportunities that you hadn't even thought of.
Can I just say that makes my heart sing that you still get excited when they reply back all these years later. Like, that's the kind of person that I feel you want to, I would love to work with, because it's, it's someone who still gets that little rush every time the email comes back. That just means you are, you're still in love with what you do. So I just have to say that, thank you.
Oh, thanks for saying that. I am. And it's funny. I just recently won a really exciting, awesome client I'm so thrilled to work with. And they said that very thing, that the passion comes through, and, that they feel my enthusiasm for the brand and for what I do. And I mean, how can you not get excited? It's just it's great to, believe in something and put it out into the world and get the recognition that you think a brand, a product, an entrepreneur, that they deserve. And it's going to have a positive impact. And also, look, I mean, it makes us look good. We get really good press for our clients, and it makes us look good. So everything it's a positive. So now you see why I didn't want to be in law anymore, right? This is why I love doing this. It's all positive.
Oh, and I get that from a completely different angle. I've had my own retail stores. I've built them up, and people always say, why did you sell them? And it was like, I processed myself out of the business. I had no role in the business other than turning up and playing on Facebook. And for me, there's no challenge in that. So I sold the business. And now that I work with retailers, every time something like this happens, I get so excited, and I do little happy dances on their behalf.
Yes. Yes. Totally. I still do the happy dance. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. So you're in the right thing when you still have that enthusiasm after all this time.
Yeah, when you're still doing happy dances. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So because I've never been really in this position before, do they ever call you? Do media outlets ever call, or do they just email?
Yeah, nobody calls anymore. Every now and then they will call, and if I get like a 212 number, which is New York, I'm like, okay, somebody's calling me from a magazine, and I always answer it. Sometimes it's ad sales, but usually they're working on email, and if they're under a deadline and you've already had some conversation, you might get a phone call. But I will say that editors do not want to be called. Okay. They don't want to be called. So don't have that be the first, it used to be that you would call and you had to have a pitch, and it had to be a short pitch, and you had to get their attention in the first 2 minutes of the call, in the first 30 seconds. And now it all gets done over email. So you've got to have that subject line that really stands out. It's like almost clickbait, because you don't have to summarize the entire email. You have to get them to read the email. So you want a subject line that's going to stand out, because they're getting, I talked to my friend at Huffington Post. She told me she gets between 75 and 100 pitches every single day. Wow. And that's even on weekends. So she has to quickly scan them and dump and triage her email, like delete, delete, delete. So you really want that subject line to stand out, and you want your pitch to get straight to the point. But it's all done over email, and really they're only calling. I mean, honestly, I unplugged our office line because I was getting so many just solicitation calls, and it was annoying. And I do a lot of podcasts, and I didn't want the phone ringing off the hook. And once I unplugged it, I kind of did not miss it at all, and I never plugged it back in. So every now and then I'll check the messages, and it's like 75 hangups and maybe one sales call. People are emailing. That's just how business is done these days, and pitching is no exception, but you want your pitch to quickly stand out and rise to the top.
I feel like in there is a little nugget of information that says never pitch on a Monday.
Oh, yeah, we never do. Never Mondays, never Fridays, never.
Always middle of the week, hump day.
Yeah, and exactly. And a lot of, summer hours, a lot of publications here, they, everybody goes up to the Hamptons. I mean, I don't go to the Hamptons, it's just funny. They're like, we're all in the Hamptons on Fridays, but they do, summer hours where they either don't work on Fridays or they leave early, and everybody's mentally checked out, So think about when you're your most focused. And we always pitch on, Tuesdays and Thursdays, sometimes Wednesdays, but, that's when you're going to get the most engagement.
Wow, you have given us so much information. I just have a couple of more questions. The first one is, if you could just quickly tell us, what do you get your clients to do when they've had that media exposure? Like, say they manage to get into one of those weekly, celebrity type magazines. What do they do with that?
Oh my God, I have a whole talk and a whole checklist on leverage, and I can actually give you the link and you can share it with your audience, but there's a whole checklist, and it allows you to get so much more mileage out of that one placement, because you have to assume that not everybody's going to see where it ran. And then even if you start sharing it on your channels, it's not everybody's going to see it then. And it's still newsworthy and noteworthy, and it helps the brand from here on out. It should always be something that you include. So there's so many ways to do it. You want to share on your social media. You want to include it on your website. It's kind of that point of purchase affirmation from whatever media outlet, either that specific product is in demand and really fabulous, or, you put it on your press section for the site so that anybody that goes there can see that this outlet is talking about your store. But there's so many ways that you can leverage it. If it's something online, we love to have our clients, or we drive traffic to it in as many ways as possible. So sharing it on your social media. For our smaller clients, they share it on, even some place like an alumni group, that for their high school or college alumni, because it's like, oh, I'm a successful alumni from here, and there's a lot of pride in sharing that, and that actually drives a lot of traffic to the link. I mean, you don't want to share it and just be like a spammer and then run away. If there's a group, a community where you're really active, you contribute, you feel like you're part of the community, then by all means share it there if it's appropriate with the group moderator, and ask people, hey, would you click the link and read this article that mentions my store? And then we have had publications come back to us and request, I've had a client that was asked to be a regular contributor to a top publication because she drove so much traffic back to that link. So it's mutually beneficial, but I like to create edited, beautiful, really clean, crisp clips in Canva, which is an Australian company, isn't it?
Yeah, they
Canva?
are.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm the biggest fan of Canva. They even emailed me and they said, you're one of our power users. I think I use it more than anybody. But I create clips. So I'll just grab all the elements like the headline and the subject and the image. So if you take a screenshot of a press feature, there's always ads, or maybe your product is towards the bottom and it doesn't look as refined. I will turn it into something that's really clean and crisp and looks really finished. And you can include that at the point of purchase. We've had clients that print it up and put it on like a foam core easel back and have it physically sitting in the store when someone reaches for the product. And you can then include that also on your social media and tease it out over time, multiple times, maybe not the same exact way, but, in case you missed it, we were featured here, or, got to get ready for spring. Did you see that Elle Magazine recommended our products? Multiple ways that you're talking about it and referring people to that same piece of content. So just keep using it over and over, and, definitely have it on your website.
And one of those things that I was just thinking, as I said, I keep talking to you and I keep thinking of all these great ideas, was if you are featured in something like a magazine, and we're talking about you have an online store, go and add that to your product description. Add the image, like you were saying, that you just created, add that into the product description, because now all of a sudden it has social proof.
Yep, 100%.
And I would go so far as it should be on the front page of your website if that happens.
Yeah, if you can keep it looking in line with the editorial feel, or maybe it's a small call to action at the bottom. And we've even had clients that have the products tied in on their press section. So if someone goes to the press section and they see a press feature, then they can say, shop the product that's actually discussed in this press feature. And there's a little button to shop the specific product. So it goes both ways. You want to have it on the product page itself, and you want to have it on link to the product on your press section. So you definitely want to include that. I mean, that's why you're getting this press. It's not just relying on the audience that's reading that publication. It is then an asset. There we go with the word asset again, that you can use again and again in your business. And you can even share that asset with retailers. So, you know, I don't know if that's too like flipped for you. We're talking about retailers and not brands, but brands are creating point of purchase to then have the retailers carry in their store. So our clients, when they open a new retailer, they will create, you know, 175 of these little point of purchase easel backs, and they send it out to all the brick and mortar stores that are carrying their products.
Yeah, well, a lot of people who listen do create their own products. So they're retailers, either direct to consumer or to other, you know, they retail to other retail stores. So that is really important, and I hadn't ever really thought about that. But I like that idea of making sure that as a brand, it's your responsibility to make sure that your retailers, because essentially they're your agents, right? To make sure that they know, and this is where I think small business is so in such a much better position than big business, because you can pivot. You can just go take that image, make the little crisp, clean shot in Canva, and get it printed out with, you know, 24-hour turnaround. And you could have that going out to your retailers by the end of the week and do a big push on social media. You have the ability as a small business to do that pivot and to bring everybody on board. Whereas big business, that, you know, it's like a machine. It's like trying to turn around a submarine. It takes days, days or weeks.
Don't get me started. Oh my God. It's like, be careful what you wish for. So I actually have 2 clients now that are billion-dollar companies, like billion with a B. And I was so excited, like, oh my God, you know, working with these huge companies. But it is so hard to work with them. I mean, getting anything to happen is exactly like you said. It's really, you know, slow to get approvals and to make anything happen. And they're very conservative and they have to get approval. I mean, it's not fun. We're very quick and, you know, you have to like seize the opportunity and work quickly. And, you know, like it's really hard to work with companies like that. So you're absolutely right. And if you can take that asset and share it even digitally with your retailers, we have our most successful clients have like an image gallery, an asset gallery, where they're sharing everything. I mean, even a product one sheet with all of the information and the talking points about the product, the ingredients, the specs, if it's like a certain size, the price point, and assets to the images so that they're just set up to be successful. You know, it's just exactly what you said.
Yeah, that is such great advice. So I have one last question. We could talk for hours on this, but I have one last question for you, which is your favorite store? What is the store that you always go back to again and again?
Am I going to upset people if I say Amazon?
No, do you know what? A lot of people say Amazon.
Yeah, you know, for where I am in my life, like I would much rather spend time with my family. Like my cart in Amazon is so random. Like I have a fountain and the fountain's broken, so I need to get a filter. And what am I going to drive to 5, pool supply stores to find the one that carries the filter that fits my fountain? No, I can't do that. I just put it in my cart at Amazon. I can look up the model number. I'm a customer, and I'm also a shareholder, and I just see what they're up to, and they're really trying to innovate in a lot of different things. I love being able to have, for me, it's about convenience and being able to accomplish more without having to do errands. You know, if I'm going to spend time that I'm not working, I want to be with my kids. And if we're going to shop, then I would love for it to be more of a fun, something that we're shopping for, a craft or something at the grocery store so we can bake cookies. I can't be running around to 20 different stores getting diapers and wipes when my kids were little, or, all of these other things that you need to successfully run a household. What takes you 5 minutes on Amazon takes you a whole day if you had to actually drive around. So I hate to say that, because I love going into my local bookstore and shopping local, and going into, Paper Source is a store here with beautiful paper goods. But I can't run my household without Amazon.
But we have to remember that independent retailers are on Amazon as well. So what I think people need to take away from this is your ideal client could be shopping on Amazon. So if you aren't using Amazon, and I say this because Amazon is coming to Australia. So they've just, we haven't really had Amazon here before, and no one really knows how it's going to work, but they've just bought a distribution center. So I'm a little bit excited, and I think it can only be a benefit for independent retailers because you do not have to compete on price. And that's what so many people think. If I'm on Amazon, I just have to be the lowest cost. Well, that isn't the case.
Yeah, that's not true. Oh my God, your life is going to change when you have access to Amazon. It's like amazing. I mean, everything that you can think of that would make your life more convenient, there is a solution on Amazon. We even have Amazon restaurants. So there are restaurants that we love that don't deliver, or they don't come to where we live. But Amazon somehow has Amazon restaurants, and you shop through the Amazon app, and it's the same price as what you would buy if I went to go pick it up. And because I'm Prime, which is like
we know what Prime is.
Yeah, then it's free delivery if I spend over whatever, like $20, which is, a meal for 4 people is over $20. I mean, it's crazy. I don't know how they do it. It's just magic. I don't know. But it's everything for a busy person. It solves a lot of that need. And I just feel like I'm able to accomplish a lot more because I'm not thinking about the 20 things that I need to successfully run my household or my business. I can just shop on Amazon.
Yeah, I love it. And it's time for independent retailers to stop being afraid of Amazon and actually embrace the fact that so many people are using it for that exact reason, for the ease and the convenience. And it's more about distinguishing yourself on Amazon rather than just being there to be the lowest price.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you have some social proof because of the PR that you've managed to secure, then automatically you can put your price up.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. It's more in demand.
All right.
It's more cool.
It is way more cool, especially if a celebrity's had it.
Yep. Or an influencer. Now influencers are a big deal too. So anyone who's got a reach on social media, they're definitely one to tie into.
Yep, for sure. So you have most generously said that you've got a download with your PR essentials checklist and how to make the most out of the media coverage that you get. I'll pop up a link to that in the show notes. But if people are like, hey, you sound so enthusiastic and so excited about what you do, where can people find you more?
So you can find me at generationacademy.com. And right now that will put them into a free 4-part video series that walks through this stuff in more depth, and I include workbooks. It's like a mini course. It's just totally free, and I'm really proud of it. It's really high quality and covers a lot. Like, I wanted people to watch it and say like, wow, I would pay money for this. So if you go to generationacademy.com, you can take like a mini free 4-part PR primer. And it'll help you. Yeah, sorry, it'll help.
I was going to say that's Jen with a Jen.
Yeah, that's right. Generation Academy. Yeah, with a J. But it'll even help you build out your media list so you can, know where to start and where to go. And leave the video series with like a strategy in place to hit the ground running.
Oh, I love strategies. Strategies make my heart sing. And that's really generous of you. So thank you so much. And thank you so much just for sharing all of your wisdom. It's been a great take on, just getting the basics ready and how to pitch. Like, I've learned so much myself. I still don't want to do it myself. I still want to get a PR agency.
Right. It's time consuming for sure.
But for those people who are like, I just want to get a bit of coverage, I'm going to start out small and see how this goes. I think you've given them some excellent tips on how to do that. So thank you so much for being on the show today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. You can find all of the show notes over at selenaknight.com. If you found something that you heard today particularly useful, I'd love it if you could leave me a review on iTunes or Stitcher. And of course, feel free to share this episode with someone that you think could benefit by listening to it. Want more retail biz strategies? you can watch the Bringing Business to Retail TV show, where each week I'll answer a question or provide you with a simple, actionable retail biz strategy that you can implement in your business right away. If you have a question or a guest, I'd love to hear from you. Drop my team an email at podcast@selenaknight.com, and I'll see you on the next episode. Have a great week.